I call the member for Fadden.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Minister for Veterans Affairs recently announced that subsequent to the findings of the inquiry initiated by the Howard Government, Henry Smith, Company Commander D Company, 6 RAR, will be offered the Star of Gallantry, and Platoon Commanders Dave Sabin and Jeff Kendall will be offered the Medal for Gallantry. And the D Company, 6 RAR, will receive approval to wear the former Republic of Vietnam's Gallantry Cross with Palm Unit Citation emblem. Citations, awards and medals do not praise war, they honour people. They honour the contribution of brave Australians who have served our nation in times of conflict and war. Notwithstanding the over 100,000 Australian servicemen and women whose graves are marked overseas, perhaps none are more deserving of recognition of their service to our nation than our Australian prisoners of war. For the first national memorial to servicemen and women to be built outside the ACT to be a memorial to the bravery and sacrifice of our POWs is certainly acknowledgement of this. Almost 35,000 Australian servicemen and women were held in POW camps during the Boer War at the turn of the last century and the Korean War in the 1950s. This included over 8,000 Australian military personnel captured by German and Italian forces, predominantly in North Africa, Greece and Crete, and over 22,000 Australians captured in the Pacific during World War II. During the Korean War, 29 Australians were held as prisoners of war. Well over a third of Australian POWs captured during World War II died in captivity, predominantly those captured in the Pacific Theatre. It was in recognition of their unique ordeal of the POWs captured in the Pacific that the former Howard government made a one-off cash payment of $25,000 in 2001 to all living Australian prisoners of war, civil detainees and internees who were held by Japan during the war. Recently, the Military Memorials of Significant Bill allowed the POW Memorial in Ballarat to be a national memorial, finally honouring our servicemen and women captured on the field of battle serving our nation. Yet for all the honouring of our POWs, there remains, I believe, a fundamental injustice that surrounds a POW's historical eligibility for the highest award in the land, the Imperial Victoria Cross. The VC was originally instituted in 1856 as a decoration to recognise gallantry in action by all ranks of the services. The VC was awarded to Australians under this imperial system of awards. Since its introduction, 96 worthy Australians have received the award. Under the imperial system, POWs were not eligible for the VC, or indeed for other medals, such as the Imperial Defence Medal, as service as a POW was not acknowledged as appropriate service for these respective awards. Consequently, 2 Australians, Captain Matthews, who was a POW at the notorious Sandakan POW camp, and Private Madden, incarcerated in a Chinese POW camp, were both received posthumous George Crosses, not the VC, as their actions were not deemed to be in the face of the enemy. I recently wrote to the Governor-General to seek representation to Her Majesty the Queen to address this historical grievance. It is unacceptable to say to an Australian digger who resisted the enemy during the horror of Sandakan or a Chinese POW camp that he did not endure in the face of the enemy, especially when you hear their stories firsthand. The Victoria Cross for Australia was approved on the 15th of January 1991, replacing the Imperial Award for the most conspicuous gallantry or a daring or preeminent act of valour or self-sacrifice or extreme devotion for duty in the face of the enemy. It is yet to be awarded. The Australian Defence Instruction on Gallantry and Distinguished Service Decorations appears clear that POWs are eligible for decorations for gallantry and distinguished service. However, the conditions under which our highest military honour may be awarded to these servicemen and women remains a little unclear. Whilst I've sought clarification from the Director of Personnel at the Department of Defence and have been assured that POWs are eligible for the Australian VC under current rules, the Defence Instruction should be clarified to make absolutely sure that no future worthy POWs are excluded on technical grounds. Considering our military history is littered with tales of heroism in the face of the enemy, any former POWs who we now honour with a national monument who perform such acts of heroism should be considered for the Imperial VC. The cases of Captain Matthews and Private Madden, who openly resisted the enemy in the bravest manner and in a manner that led to their deaths, are 2 obvious immediate cases requiring redress. to rectify the injustice that saw the contribution of these men not recognised in the manner in which they deserved.